whoever guesses the country of the location gets a free ticket to a future event. Oh, not Zimbabwe, not Bhutan, not Taiwan. I could see how it could be any of those places.
Cambodia, no.
Oh, and Sylvia. Congratulations, Sylvia. It is in Ecuador. It's called the Staircase Devil's Cauldron.
One more important element, and that is inserting links, which is very often omitted in content optimization. So images optimization is simply adding some alt text to your visuals, images, and videos. So my URL directing users to this particular website. Then below that, you see SEO localization creative tribe. That is a meta title. And then below that, that is a meta description. So if you want to gauge your localization team performance, you need to be at the localization status. But if you want to gauge the SEO final output quality, you need to QA it after optimization.
When it comes to transcreation, we still have a linear process. We're transforming source content. We have been given a source. We're using creative ideas. We're using search engine optimization and SEM marketing. More and more people are looking at how to take the campaign content and get the writers, the multilingual writers, to write directly out of that campaign. It has no source. It works with campaigns. It increases impactfulness. And it measures, instead of referring back to the source. So that is about client acquisition, it's about revenue, and it's about aligning the content to the client side, the acquirer of the product, as opposed to the source creator.
AI technologies in their basic form learn from human experiences, just like a child learns from a teacher or their parents. There are limited resources available for these languages, and it seems it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to improve their digital standing. The study found that unsupervised pre-training methods only make the poor poorer, since there is virtually no unlabeled data to use in this category. That means the rest of the languages spoken in the world are only 13%. So 13% of the languages spoken in the globe take all the attention. So interacting with devices that are headless, such as, again, as I said, Alexa or Google Voice, etc. These are some of the examples or industries where speech recognition is in use today. And obviously this list will grow. You have to confirm what language or languages the model should be trained on. One language, especially English, is easy, but cost and complexity may go up as you want to increase the scope of languages. Model type is also critical. For some use cases, you may need neural networks or deep learning, in particular for speech, but for some other basic NLP tasks, such as entity recognition or parts of speech recognition, something simpler like a statistical NLP model may be enough. So demand for data is different for different types of model. So what happens to the data that's collected? Collected speech data is it's analyzed, cleaned up, and prepared for use with the model. And then again, word error rate, which is kind of the standard or the convention for analyzing the quality of the model. That analysis is performed to compare the model performance against industry and other model benchmarks. Time codes are used to create reference points in the transcribed text to sync with the audio speech. And then that transcribed text is annotated and tagged to identify things such as emotions, environmental and background events, overlap speech, and non-human sounds like a car engine or musical instruments, and so on.
Another common problem that you observe, especially very often in under-resourced languages, but also in many of the well-covered languages in the world, is the phenomena of code switching, so that you are actually mixing languages. For example, if you're looking at Cantonese, you often have many English phrases or words weaved into the Cantonese carrier language. Also, these new models, these new neural models, don't have as much human knowledge manually encoded in them as the old models. This is all gone now with the new, with these neural end-to-end models. So you really need large amounts of transcribed speech, and you cannot just get by with text anymore.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm interested if you guys have a story that you can share with us.
Languages are constantly dying out, also because of the pressure they have from technology. So Haitian Creole was actually one of these languages that was on the verge of dying out, being replaced by French. And then it made sort of a comeback. There were suddenly now newspapers again printed in Creole as Haiti was getting independent from the former French government and French influences.
Culture matters, end of story. And it matters for three reasons. It matters in how you build trust, it matters in how you motivate, and it matters in how you influence others.
Cultural intelligence is the capability to relate and work effectively with people from different cultural backgrounds. So culture is, at its core, what is accepted and familiar to a particular group. Assimilate into the culture here, and I'm going to have some green tea. She ordered it with some sugar. The waiter at the time said to her, "One doesn't drink green tea with sugar." And she responded, I understand that. I would like it with sugar, though." This was very bizarre and unusual for the waiter. The waiter retreated and went to speak with the manager. And after a lengthy discussion with the manager came and said, "We actually don't have any sugar." So without sugar, she said, "That's fine, I'll order a coffee." When the waiter brought out the coffee, there on the little plate that they set coffee on were 2 packets of sugar.
Oh, right. And there's this book, which is really, really thin, and it's really, really cool. And it goes into a little bit more of what we, would honestly love to continue talking. So there you go. Show and tell. I mean, we're knocking it out of the park here.
If you are flexible and willing to adapt to changing circumstances, then your uncertainty avoidance will be on the lower end of the spectrum. Whereas if you are aiming to reduce and avoid uncertainty in most situations, your uncertainty avoidance would be on the high end of the spectrum. So individuals with low UA prefer to figure things out as they go, whereas individuals with high UA will prefer to eliminate any ambiguity and uncertainty through planning or even tradition.
There's the low and the high power distance. So power distance, to ground ourselves, is really that extent to which you prefer something egalitarian, something of a flat structure, and approach to leadership. And then on the higher power distance is when you're looking for something that's top down, that's more of a hierarchy. So you're more receptive or expecting a certain structure or the lack thereof, depending on which side of the value you most feel identified with.
There's going to be AI for everything. How do we translate everything? How do we globalize everything? How do we localize everything? AI, however, is one half of the discussion, and it's the one that in the industry we have a lot of. The other half of the discussion that we're not having enough of is around data. Data is the new oil, but this is, in many ways, it's no joke. In the new digital first world, I would much rather have an imperfect localization end to end than no localization on 4 of the steps, because we couldn't achieve perfect quality. We are obsessed with quality that doesn't matter to the end user as much as it does to us. But what's interesting is every technology development leads to actually a rapid increase in new jobs in supporting that. So I'll give you a great example. If you go to a construction site, we needed 10,000 of them 100 years ago to dig a hole. Now we need 10 of them and 2 backhoes. But you need a lot of people to design that backhoe, market that backhoe, and sell that backhoe, and support that backhoe, and service that backhoe. So the jobs will shift. And then the last one is multidisciplinary. You take sort of the approach that the special forces takes to the way they assemble teams, right? Everybody has a primary skill, but they all have a number of secondary skills, because they're going to have to pivot where they are needed and where the talent gets applied very rapidly.
The subtitle of the book is 50 Ways to Rekindle Your Love Affair with Language. So why are we talking about a love affair? So I'm a firm believer in stories, right? We are made up of stories. We are put together from things that happened in the past that became stories that inform who we are. Unicode, that was developed from 1991. In the case of Unicode, Adobe, of course, has a huge impact on it. Then you have something like OpenType. Essentially is the ability to completely defined versions of characters to change glyphs as they come into a certain position or situation. Web fonts, starting in 1997 and, really only coming in the last maybe, 10 years or so, allow us now not to be dependent on the fonts that we have on our computer, but to be able to use fonts that are located elsewhere on the web. The Q is a curious character, right? It's the only character that actually goes into the space of another character. Q for the braid that you have as a Chinese person in the Qing dynasty in the last is also pronounced Q, even though it's written completely different.
So I'm going to go into talking about designing for everyone. So what I'm realizing throughout all of my traveling is that type is everywhere and type must work for everyone. Designing for everyone is really, really hard because everyone has this cultural bias, but trying to design, you can't. And then as you think you're trying to design for one section, like for one type of person, it's not right for someone else.
Which is some reviewers are known to be stricter than others and some more lenient. So if we plot the average EPTs that reviewer 1 produces and reviewer 2 produces, then, we'll figure out that one might be lenient, one might be strict, and maybe the truth that we don't observe, though, is somewhere in the middle. So this is the issue that we're tackling here.
Ciao a tutti. Sono un sistema di generazione vocale molto espressivo e posso parlare in tanti stili diversi.
Okay, so this is Italian, right? And so we've got different speaking styles for this voice that we have created.
Ciao a tutti. Sono un sistema di generazione vocale molto
Whispering here might not be
e posso parlare in tanti.
Name for the style, but the idea is that one.
Ciao a tutti. Sono un sistema di generazione vocale molto espressivo e posso parlare in.
Show you the live demo. So this is beta for now. What do we have here? This is a National Geographic documentary here playing. We've extracted the voice track of that, and it's playing in the background. And we're doing voice over with a synthetic voice that I'll make you listen to in a second.
Questi modelli sono uno strumento ideale per l'analisi off-site. Soprattutto qui nell'Ulu, dove ci sono oltre 21.000 siti.
Let's look at the localization project lifecycle. And always starts with the context and the object. But it also changes the dynamic in this process, right? From technology-centric to human-centric. And in the middle of this life cycle, we have linguists. And then we go, of course, through the, delivery process, right, to deliver back to the project manager and then back to the customer. Process of content upload. So simply eliminating the manual content upload. And this can be done via APIs between systems or using various connectors, watched folders, hot folders, content connectors and so on, or integrations between content systems, business management tools, or translation management systems like CAT tools. So as soon as we connect it, as soon as the content can flow from one to the other, we can speed up the process.